What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex. You're watching a Marvel edition of the Ragin Nation show. This is just a web series where we're talking about all things that matter to me in the world of Marvel films. This is episode number 18, and by now, I'm sure most of you guys have seen X-Men Days of Future Past. I've seen it. It was awesome. I give it a 9.25 out of 10, and if you haven't seen it and you want to know how I feel about it, you can check out my spoiler-free review. I did a review without any spoilers, as I naturally do, and then I also did a spoiler-filled review. There's a spoiler chat talkback video that I made. If you guys have seen it and you want to check out how I feel about it, where I get into more in-depth detail, you can check that out. I'm going to leave you the links to both videos at the end of the video. Anyways, X-Men Days of Future Past is a huge success, not just critically, but of course on its opening weekend. The box office take was pretty huge. It was a little bit less than what the studios has projected at $125 million. What it took instead for the Memorial Day 4-day long weekend is $111 million, and which is great, but however, it is just $12 million short of beating X-Men Last Stand. And we all know X-Men Last Stand was not a great film. And I feel that X-Men Days of Future Past deserves to be beating X-Men Last Stand. You know what? It does in every way, alright? It's just such a great movie. And like I said, Bryan Singer does a fan service to all the X-Men fans. And he totally writes off everything that happened in X-Men Last Stand. Anyways, huge opening. It's the 5th largest Memorial Day long weekend opening, and it's also made $302 million worldwide. So it is huge, all right? So I'm really happy about that. Now let's talk a little bit about the sequel, X-Men Apocalypse. Now, if you don't already know, X-Men Apocalypse is a direct sequel to X-Men Days of Future Past, because Bryan Singer actually announced X-Men Apocalypse last year while he was still working on X-Men Days of Future Past. So X-Men Apocalypse will be a direct sequel, and what's very interesting is that Simon Kinberg did say that the story is going to be focusing on the first class cast. So we're talking about young Charles Xavier, young Magneto, played by Michael Fassbender, Mystique, Hank McCoy. But Simon Kinberg recently announced that because of such a positive response about Quicksilver's performance and his role in the movie, you know, fans want to see him back, and because of that, Simon Kinberg is going to be writing the Quicksilver character into X-Men Apocalypse. That is awesome, okay? You know, I'll be completely honest. I thought that Quicksilver, you know, he just didn't look the part, okay? When I saw the screenshots of him, and when I saw the little promo photos of what he looks like, I just didn't like the way he looked. But I have to say that I'm going to eat my words, because he's the best part about X-Men Days of Future Past, and I'm so glad that he's going to be back for X-Men Apocalypse. So that's awesome news, alright? Another thing that I want to talk about with regards to the X-Men franchise is that we still don't know how big or small Wolverine's involvement in the X-Men Apocalypse story is. I've already talked about this in a previous video, but there's no word on if he's going to be the focal point of the movie, which is going to be very interesting if he isn't, because all the Bryan Singer directed X-Men films, X1, X2, Days of Future Past, have all made Wolverine the focal point of the movie. Now, if you take that away, it kind of brings us back to the way X-Men First Class was told. And like Simon Kinberg said, he did say that the movie will be focusing on the X-Men First Class cast. So it looks like Logan's role in X-Men Apocalypse might be kept to a minimal, which is going to be very interesting. I'm not talking about cameo small, but at least making him a supporting character. Now, I wonder how fans are going to feel about that, where you're so used to seeing Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and he plays a perfect Wolverine, and he leads the film in the previous 3 films, but then suddenly he's brought to a supporting role. You know, I'll feel a little weird about that. You know, I can't say that I'm tired of seeing him, but I'm so used to seeing him as the lead role that when you bring him down, like when you lessen his role, it's possible that I might say by the end of the movie that oh man, I wish I saw more Wolverine. You know, who knows? But anyways, that's what's happening. Speaking of Wolverine, Hugh Jackman mentioned that he would love to do a solo film with Deadpool. All right, and you know, Hugh Jackman, he's got a lot in the in the production. He's not just an actor, but he's also been an executive producer for X-Men Origins the Wolverine. He you know, he as an executive producer gets to have some say in the production, in the creative aspect of the filmmaking process. All right, so he gets to throw in ideas, and he did mention that he would love to be in a film where he gets to face off with Deadpool again. Now, they've already mentioned that they're writing off everything that happened in Origins Wolverine and also Last Stand. So by doing that, whatever happened in Wolverine or X-Men Origins Wolverine, that Deadpool fight, in a way, never took place because you know, they've reset everything. And even though James Mangold is directing the Wolverine 2, he still follows that timeline. It's a linear timeline that will be followed from this point on, from Days of Future Past. So anyways, all I want to say is that I'd love to see it happen. I want to see Wolverine facing off against a Deadpool, because when in the Wolverine, you know, the one that took place in Japan, I felt that the Silver Samurai and Wolverine fight for an X-Men solo movie still was underwhelming. Okay, I felt the Deadpool fight was underwhelming. I felt the Silver Samurai fight was also underwhelming. I would love to see a Deadpool versus Wolverine fight done well. Okay, I want to see that battle done justice. All right, or even working together. All right, co-op style. So there you have it. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about another character which was awesome in X-Men Days of Future Past, and that would be Fan Bingbing, who portrayed the character of Blink. And I've already said it in my spoiler-free review and also my spoiler-filled review that Blink was such an awesome character. I originally didn't think her character would be cool because of you know, her ability, but it was so cool. And because of that, well, not because of that, but upon being a part of X-Men Days of Future Past, she mentioned, or rather, it's been officially stated that Fan Bingbing actually signed on to play Blink for a total of 5 films. 5 X-Men films, okay? Whether it be an X-Men film, or a solo film, or just a supporting role in another X-Men related film, it doesn't matter. She's signed on for 5 films. It doesn't mean that we're necessarily going to get 5 films, you know, already planned out, you know. But if there are more X-Men films, she is obligated to be a part of it, which is something I'm very happy about. I want to see more of her character. I want to see a further exploration of her character. I want to see her doing more of her portal thing. I want to see her doing her portal thing in a more epic fashion. At the end of the day, we're going to see more of her, okay? So I'm really, really happy about that. So very, very cool. Now let's move on to talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, okay? And something very disappointing happened over the weekend, and that is Edgar Wright, the director of Ant-Man, has exited the production of Ant-Man. This is all very disappointing news to me. I like Edgar Wright. He directed the Cornetto trilogy. We're talking about Shaun of the Dead, at World's End, and also Hot Fuzz. He also directed Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. So this is a director who really understands that comic book style of storytelling. All right, and I felt that he was the perfect director for Ant-Man. In fact, he has put out he's been working on his Ant-Man script even before they announced him as a director, as an official director, okay? You know what? He put a lot of work into it. It's his story, but unfortunately, Marvel Studios, you know, that big studio executives, the studio heads, they wanted to change his script. They wanted rewrites done. They wanted him to revise his script. And for someone in the creative, you know, industry, you know, having someone else change your script can be considered offensive. You know, these are his ideas. The studios are trying to tell him that they don't think it works, all right? But come on, let a director do his job, Okay, he understands the source material. He understands the vision. Okay, studio executives are all about money. They're all about thinking about what works, you know, in the best interest of the studio. They're not thinking about what works in the best interest of the story or the characters or the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole. Okay, man, I'm really disappointed about that. Joss Whedon, director of Avengers 1 and 2, and James Gunn, the director of Guardians of the Galaxy, responded with their support. And, you know, they are people who also feel his pain. You know, these guys are visionary directors. These guys are creators, okay, with a lot of creativity, obviously. And they feel for him. They feel for somebody, one of their brothers in filmmaking, just leaving. And it's really, really unfortunate. I'm not very happy about this. I really wanted to see Ant-Man's vision from the vision of Ant-Man from director Edgar Wright, and this really sucks. I wonder who's gonna replace him. But you know, the thing is that a lot of the Marvel Cinematic Universe films they have a certain level of high quality to them. All right, they have a level of not just visuals, but storytelling and direction that makes them always of a high standard of storytelling. Like they always seem to be good. Okay, they always seem to be good to great. All right, so whoever they bring on board, you know, there's going to be a level of a quality that whoever that new director is going to bring. But Edgar Wright is, you know, he's a great director. I really wish that he would have been back. But anyways, that's how I feel about the whole situation. It's all very disappointing. How do you feel about that? Let me know in the comment section below who you think would be an appropriate director to replace Edgar Wright. So let me know down below. Now, I want to get into spoiler territory. I'm going to go back to talking about X-Men Apocalypse. And I read some stuff about X-Men Apocalypse, which spoils X-Men Days of Future Past. So if you haven't seen X-Men Days of Future Past, I'm letting you guys know right now that this is spoiler territory. But you can stop the video because there's nothing more I want to talk about beyond this. All right. So the writer of X-Men Days of Future Past and Apocalypse, Simon Kinberg, mentioned that X-Men Apocalypse is going to be a disaster movie, kind of like in the style of Roland Emmerich's disaster movies. It's going to be on the level of an extinction level event, also known as Ellie. That's what they called it in Deep Impact. Okay, Ellie. Okay, extinction level event. And at the end of X-Men Days of Future Past, you will have seen that Bryan Singer and Simon Kinberg have created a brand new timeline for the X-Men universe, the X-Men cinematic universe, if you will. And this means that it will have a lot of the first-class cast members in there. That will be the main focus, but they will also have the original cast members, which means that the original cast members that we saw at the end of X-Men Days of Future Past, some of them will be back for X-Men Apocalypse. You know how they brought in Storm, Cyclops, Jean Grey at the end of X-Men Days of Future Past? Looks like they're going to be having a role in X-Men Apocalypse. And if you're probably wondering, well, how's that going to work out? Because, you know, that's a different time period. You know, you got the older mutants, then you have the younger mutants. Well, let me tell you something. Well, the way it's going to work is that they're going to be bringing the younger versions of themselves. All right, so it'll be a young Cyclops, a young Storm, and a young Jean Grey, which we haven't really seen. I mean, we've seen a young Storm and a young Cyclops in X-Men Origins Wolverine, but like I said before, they're writing that off. So they're going to be bringing an all-new cast to for these original mutants. So Jean Grey and Cyclops and Storm will be played by new cast members. So there's going to be a new introduction to these characters, which are essentially the original X-Men film cast members, all right? So, very, very interesting. You know, it's going to be epic. X-Men Apocalypse is going to be epic. After all, it is a disaster movie in the style of a Roland Emmerich film. What's not to like? Anyways, the last thing that I want to cover is that the fans are wondering, will Bryan Singer be back to direct X-Men Apocalypse. And Simon Kinberg responded, that is the plan. Alright, so they want to get Bryan Singer back. The studios obviously want to get Bryan Singer back to direct. So far, he is just serving as a producer. But if everything works out, like the scheduling works out, he will be the director for X-Men Apocalypse. And I hope it is. I hope he is the director for X-Men Apocalypse because, like I said before, I like it when sequels and trilogies are directed by the same director. That way, it's just one vision. There's always that continuity. There's always that one vision and that one story that they want to tell. All right. There's no like continuity errors because, you know, that's what happened when they brought in Brent Ratner for X-Men Last Stand. All right. So there you have it. That's all I got to say in this video. We're gonna have more Marvel updates for you guys. So stay tuned for the Marvel Edition, episode number 19. As always, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation. Also follow me on Twitter at Ragin Nation. My name is Alex Yu. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace. Characters. Every character serves some sort of purpose, okay? Except for there are some mutants that are just shown there, just, you know, to do